strongly emotional, and I have to admit that now I'm under a state of strong emotion. I hope I won't be ridiculous while reading what I have to read. And on the other hand, if I knew there was here someone which is used to the Czech language, I would have suggested to Tuan maybe um, a kind of performance, a performative show, but now it is too late to improvise it directly here. So because it was about so many languages here, I will start with a poem which I wrote initially uh, in a kind of Chenglish, and which actually it is a kind of Czech. The captains of on Czech Airlines speak very special English. They understand only between themselves, and which sounds a little bit like this. Uh, this is your captain speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, that's váš kapitán speaking. Welcome aboard. Our aircraft je nějaký Airbus 300 a něco. Anglicky umí lépe letuška, ale ta za chvíli porodí v kokpitu, a tak bych je raději neobtěžoval. Tak have a coffee ze skladu. If you're hungry, připoutejte se. K jídlu jsou pouze halušky se sojovými klobásami. Záchody jsou ucpané, v business class se čurat nesmí, ale do Bukurešti snad vydržíte, so have a pleasant flight. In normal English, this would sound something like this, besides the Czech fragments, of course. This is your captain speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard. Our aircraft is an Airbus 300 and something. I don't know precisely. The flight attendant speaks English better, but she's just giving birth she's just delivering in the cockpit, so I would rather not bother her. So have a coffee for yourself from the shelters in the wind. If you're hungry, just put your shoes on. We only have some for food. We only have some sandwiches with soya. The toilets are blocked, and you can't take a pee on the business class, but I'm sure you will resist until Bucharest, so have a pleasant flight. Okay, so now let's go back to the item of I humbly suggested the personal Christmas, a personalized Christmas, when I mentioned about it, and I want to thank very much David for mentioning this, that a personalized Christmas means a very special, doesn't have to be a real Christmas. It can be a very special moment each of us lived in a certain time, or a very special kind of living the Christmas. And in this concern, I would like to start with because someone here mentioned some in the context of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, mentioned something also about the Russian culture, and because of the evident connections of the novel Crime and Punishment with the idea of Christic sacrifice, I propose to you the following poem. Um, the Evangelium, the Gospel, according to Rogozhin. Rogozhin is not, I don't mean the politician we know, but the famous character in the novel Crime and Punishment, the one who killed Nastasia Filipovna. I apologize, Nastasia Filipovna. I couldn't help but kill you. You were so beautiful, so provocative, and yet so arrogant and so despiteful of all men that any of them would have felt no regret and no remorse for lasciviously and eagerly depriving you of your virginity, your love, and even your life. You stubbornly refused all this to me, and so I was nothing else left but your death. Actually, it was the only thing I could still take from you, the only thing that was still always and only yours. That is, nothing of what you have ever had belonged to you anymore. You were deeply in debt. Your life, it hasn't been yours for a long time, for you crushed it and broke it into as many bloody and bleeding shards as many men let themselves, being carried away with their sharp tenderness and intoxicated with their poisonous sweetness. Each one of them voluntarily took their personal shared and honestly bought it, paying for it the price you set for him. Therefore, they deserved to have them, to enjoy them the way they felt like. For any of those shares, I would have paid more than anyone else, but you have never wanted to trade with me. You despised me more than all the other ones, for you considered me as an illiterate, primitive, and violent boor. I probably wouldn't mind this that much for money, and I really had it enough. I could have gotten anything, even the most beautiful of your shards, but you didn't reject me so much because of myself as you did it because of Mushkin. And this was really annoying. And at the same time, I was hopelessly depressed about it. I couldn't even be jealous at Mushkin, neither challenge him to a duel, nor kill him, for he wasn't even a man, but some unreachable asexual ideal, an artificial model not even existing in the real world, some stupid character of a melodramatic novel, Dostoevsky's failed attempt of creating an and absolutely and undoubtedly positive figure. After all, the author himself confessed all this had been a big mistake. Otherwise, the novel would not end as it does, and would not bear the title it bears. I couldn't fight the idiot. I needed a real adversary to fight, a real man, one wearing a sword and equipped with balls. I would have definitely crushed, destroyed, killed someone like this, and thus I would have earned the right of buying anything from you at the highest price set by yourself, anything for any price. But this one, at least if he had considered looking at you like at a woman, if your beauty had in any way excited him, but it wasn't. He loves you like an angel loves another angel, with his spirit and soul, but never with his body, because, as any angel, he wasn't equipped with one. And worst of all, I'm fully aware that yourself, you didn't take him seriously as a man either. You wouldn't consider ever in your life marrying him or sleeping with him because just like me, you realized perfectly well he wasn't neither a real man nor a complete human being, and he would never satisfy you as a woman. Angels could never get it up. Spirits don't screw. Symbols are never sucked off, and nobody gets drunk with water. even if turned into wine. However, for you, it was enough to have a look at him like to some holy image, like to some living God, though he was actually not alive at all. Looking at him like to a symbol, a pattern, an ideal, was enough for you as an excuse for discovering and claiming sanctity. His, yours, this didn't matter anymore. For simply adoring him, and maybe just for discovering moral principles with which otherwise, as a notorious prostitute, you had never much in common with. You saw yourself in your own eyes, like a kind of Mary Magdalene at the feet of this asexual Jesus, in order to live, at least for a while, with the illusion that some man would love you also for something else, but for your perfect body and pagan beauty. You were lying to yourself, but you were aware of it, and you didn't mind it either, for you didn't expect or need anything from him but that love against nature. You wouldn't even think of being with him, but it was because of him existing, that you refused to be with me. The one you made a god of provided you with the courage of refusing compromises with the one you thought it was the devil. He was everything I wasn't. He had everything I hadn't. He could, knew, and was able to see everything I was unable to. In short, he was my ideal opposite, the tangible and indisputable evidence that there still was a chance in the world that even a fallen soul like you could hope for some kind of salvation, and most importantly, that it didn't have to have in the arms of someone else, of someone. He didn't have to find it in the arms of someone like me. Of course, he wasn't like that by himself or because of himself, but because you were seeing him that way, because that's how you had built, projected, constructed, created him. You needed a strong reason for not being with me, so you invented Mushkin. You decorated it like a Christmas tree with all the positive features you didn't find or refused to see at me. You provided him with everything you would have liked to admire in a man, except for manhood, except for sword and balls. Why? Probably because you had already had enough man, and on the other hand, maybe because you were aware that manhood, sword, and balls were to be found at me as well. But him, he had to be different, more exactly, my perfect opposite. In fact, one can say that in a certain way, I kind of served you as a model for him. You didn't create him according to, but against my image. Nevertheless, I served to you as a model for him, a model of what he shouldn't have been. And so you drew, built, and created him in more detail, more consciously, and better than Dostoevsky himself. Actually, Mushkin didn't even exist. Fighting him would have meant fighting against an invented image dwelling in your head, and experience taught me that fighting against what was in your mind would be completely useless. I apologize, Nastasia Filipovna. I couldn't help but kill you. There was no point in killing Mushkin. So and so, after 3 days, you would still have arranged some resurrection of his, reinvented him otherwise. You would have adored him even more, and he would have really become an immortal god. By the way, this was actually the error the ancient Jews did. They thought they'd get rid of Jesus by arranging his killing, but no way. By contrary, That's what it got him into legend and helped him achieve immortality. If, on the other hand, they would have killed Mary Magdalene, grief would have probably destroyed and killed Jesus as well. So they would still get rid of him even in a more efficient way. But even if he had survived the death of his lady creator, most likely nobody would have remembered him anymore, and he would probably have to go back to that ancient sanatorium in some antique Switzerland and wait for Dostoevsky to be born and to reinvent him as Prince Mushkin. So, in short, I didn't want to repeat that ancient Jewish error. I apologize, Nastasia Filipovna. I couldn't help but kill you. Okay. So I think I still have 7 or 8 minutes. Uh, the next poem I would like to suggest, also connected in a certain way with Christmas. I'm sorry, my computer is very slow. I think I have already read this this poem here, but okay. It has to do with the Christic myth, but it is connected to a second very important Christian moment. There's water in the tomb, snow on the walls, although the tomb is empty, as they say, and crosses on the hill, still 3, and no one falls. There's Easter also on the second Easter day, and as long as there's Easter, there's still hope that flows along but never flows away. I was 8 when for the first time, when they started looking for me, and when I told them they should have known they had to look for me in my father's house, they stared at me that strange way, like being worried for my mental health state. This continued and repeated itself for whole years until I became 33 and I disappeared again. And again, they didn't know where to look for me, for it still wasn't clear where and which my father's house was. That empty holy cave full of water and snow, but liberated of my allegedly dead presence, that piece of enlightened sky at the entrance of the cave, that cold river at my invisible feet, those beams assuming the task of bringing some light and warmth in what was supposed to be the house of my father's son. It seems so strange to me that nobody thought at those 3 crosses on the hill and at those 3 corpses hanging on them. One of them could have been and remained forever the house of another one's father. If I didn't know at least one of them, if I didn't know at least one of them was for sure fatherless. Therefore, if asked Where should they look for me this time? And answering, they should have known they were supposed to search for me in my father's house. Their worries about my mental health state would have become even worse, and most probably nobody would have believed the cave was really empty now if they didn't realize the sword man had initially been a sword ladyship, and that my one and only house was not my father's. For the river flowing along but never flowing away was made from both Mary's tears, waiting for my blood to color in red those eggs in their corpse they brought with them, and thus ensuring them the opportunity of confirming to the rest of the world that the second Easter day is still Easter, and that they are not concerned anymore with my mental health state. David, please, could you confirm me how many minutes I still have, or if it's already, it finished? Do I still have 3 minutes? Okay, I assume I I I assume I do. I hope at least. Um, okay, so the last poem also somehow connected the to the Christmas is called Dichtung 3, Jumping Over the Axis, dedicated to the Czech poet Radek Friedrich. I fulfilled all the tasks I was entrusted with. I welcomed the good news I was announced. I welcomed the good news I was announced. I kept looking over our symbiosis while continuing to observe or only implementing, since now I don't remember anymore, the recommended social distancing. I found out in time about the genocide. I took you on that trip. We reached the city. We found the shelter, and I met some of the ones living there. Now we could finally have some sleep, for we needed a good rest after all that had happened and before all that was said to follow. But when I woke up, I didn't recognize anything around. What was that tree with those lights above? What about this violet heart between us? And who are you? Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity of being feature poet tonight. And I'm sorry for the emotional moments which uh, disturbed a little bit, or I hope that only a little bit, my reading. Once again, thank you very much. I was honored to be here and to read here in the company of so many excellent poets. Thank you very much also for the emotional poet by this extraordinary friend, which is Rick Spisak, and also for the beautiful surprises concerning the Czech language. Bylo mi opravdu velkou radostí a ctí. Thank you very much.